Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mind the Mental Monday. Good to be with you all again this evening. It's been quite a hectic week. Last week was a hectic week, and it's just not going to let up. It's going to be pretty hectic all the way up until like the holidays. But I'm glad to be here. Glad to still be in the land of the living and still glad to be minding the mental every single day. And I hope you are too. So thank you all for continuing to support Mind the Mental Monday. Thank you for, watching it, tuning in live, tuning in on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also subscribe to my blog on my website, benitaweathers.com. And I look forward to seeing seeing more from you all, comments and the like. So and also just like and share. All right. So that'll be helpful. Uh but I really hope and pray that something that is said and done on Mind the Mental Monday will be uplifting and encouraging for you. I also want to thank my guests that I've had on over the last 3 weeks. I was wrapping up my series on embracing you with three conversations, one with my uh, team, Minister Ebony and Joy. We had a very robust conversation, and many of you, really got a few nuggets out of that discussion. And then the following week, I had my daughters, Jasmine and Kayla, who were speaking from a generational perspective about embracing you and how, I'm Gen X, Jasmine is millennial, Kayla is Gen Z, and just looking at the different ways that we sort of approach life in those different generations and what embracing us really meant. And then last week, I spoke with two of my bonus sons, Norman and Brax, and they spoke from a millennial male perspective on embracing you. So those conversations were all very intriguing and just wonderful. So if you missed them, go to my YouTube channel and check them out there, which I hope you will do. I love talking um, to my sisters, and I love talking to young people from their perspective and their lens, kind of how they see things and how they look at things. And so I'm really happy that I was able to have all of those conversations. Before getting into our topic tonight, I would like to take some time to recognize and remember my mother-in-law who transitioned 3 years ago today. And she was a second mom to me. Often you see or hear really just negative stories about, mothers-in-law and, and the mother-in-law that's like you nasty to her daughter-in-law and that kind of thing. And but I can really honestly say that I really didn't have that at all. And that's why she was my mother in love. So much more than in law, but in love. She certainly was a second mom and who always referred to me, always said, I was like the daughter she never had. And that really means a lot to me. And so all of the things, there's a lot of remembrances of her even in our home because she was, she used to do a lot of what do you call it? Artwork. So like centerpieces and things like that. She was always really good with like decorations and she used to make curtains and things like that. And so I have like some centerpieces in my dining room that she made and whenever I see it or whenever I look at it, I think about her. And there's just a lot of love between us. And when she transitioned 3 years ago today, I was actually in Mexico at the time on a girls' trip with my line sisters, with whom I celebrated on this past Friday 38 years of being in the illustrious Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So I want to shout out to them as well. But um, I just wanted to take some time to just remember her. I remember her fondly and lovingly, and all of the meals we would have. We go over her house on Easter. We go over there Christmas Eve, and she always liked family and celebration, and she's just such a light and a life. Um, and so we miss her. And thank you, Lisa, for your prayers. Yes, we definitely need those. And yeah, so it's nice when you can have good memories of your loved ones. So just wanted to shout out Mom Weathers. I know she's up there with the angels, and she is very much, as I told my husband this morning, she is very much alive. She's very much alive, and she is not only alive, but she is completely healed. She suffered with Alzheimer's at the end of her life. So she is completely healed, and she's alive, and she's in the arms of Jesus, and we're happy about that. But we sure miss her on this earth. So, Mom, we love you. Okay. Um, so now I want to transition into the topic that I want to talk about tonight. And this topic came about as in for our church in our Bible study, our Tuesday night. We have Bible study at Tuesday nights at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom. Anybody who wants to join is welcome to come. But we are studying the book of Genesis, and we are in the last 3 weeks, we've been sort of in that part that's talking about Abram and Sarai, and Abram's name gets changed to Abraham, and Sarai's name gets changed to Sarah. But early on, God made a promise to Abram who's Abram at that time, that he was going to make him a father of many nations. Now, a lot of times when we, hear from the Lord, something that he is going to birth through us, we often look for it to happen immediately. Um, or at least within a certain amount of time. Like we might give it a few months, we might even give it a year, but anything past a year, especially in our microwave generation, like we want it now, right? We want it to happen now. We want it to happen fast. And when it doesn't happen quickly, there is a weight, weight, that occurs with the wait, wait. Um, and so Abraham and Sarah went through that sort of wait. And it was from the time that God initially made the promise to Abraham that he was going to make him a father of many nations to the time that Isaac, his son with Sarah, was born, it's 14 years that have gone by. So you can imagine in that story, we see how, after a couple of years goes by and there's still no, Sarah is still not able to have a child. Sarah then has her servant to sleep with Abraham and Abram and make a child, and Sarah's just like, well, that child will be my child, right? They take matters into their own hands. Because a period of time has gone by. And God said, well, that wasn't the plan. That wasn't my plan. That was your plan. But that was not my plan. And so even though they took matters into their own hands, and um Abraham conceived and had a son with Hagar, even Hagar's son, um, God l- said that even he will also be a father of many nations. Like Abraham will be a father of many nations through that lineage as well. So sometimes we take matters into our own hands when God said, didn't say that now is the time. But we decide, well, now I want it now. And we kind of mess things up. But even in that, God will still give us grace. He will still give us mercy, and he will even still bless some of the choices that we made outside of him. But imagine being told that you're going to be the father of many nations, and 14 years goes by before that happens. But all along that journey, God kept reiterating the promise. I'm going to make you a father of many nations, through Sarah. He kept reiterating it, right? And but as I was studying, to facilitate our Bible study class, it just kept resonating with me, the weight of waiting that long. When you think about Sarah and you think about the time in which she lived, women who were not able to have children were really ostracized. I mean, they were just considered, because back then that was all women were for, was to have children, to populate. And that was pretty much it. And and so she had been waiting all these years. I mean, even before the promise, she hadn't conceived. So really, it was even long, but at the from the point of the promise all the way until she gave birth, it was 14 years. And you think about the weight of God has told me I'm supposed to do this, and but it's not happening. And so I think a lot of times, even today, when we feel that God has put a calling on our lives, when it doesn't happen in the time frame that we think it should, or when it doesn't happen in the way that we think it should, we we get upset, and we feel this weight, because it feels like, well, God, you said that this is what you wanted me to do. You said that this was what was going to happen, but why isn't it happening? Like, what is going on? And we get frustrated, and we start to feel negative about ourselves, and we start to really compare ourselves to other people and start looking at what other people are doing, and, well, they're doing X, Y, and Z, and it's happening for them. Why isn't it happening for me? Can any of you identify with that? Like, have any of you ever experienced a time in your life where you felt like you were meant to do something, and yet you felt like you were in a holding pattern? Like you weren't able to do it quick enough. You weren't able to make it happen quick enough because you want it to happen now, but you have to wait. And so how do you survive the WAIT, and how do you survive the massive amount of weight that can feel sometimes like it's crushing you? Like, feel like it's really like pushing you down. I will give a personal testimony of something that happened with me. I'm not sure if I've shared this before on Mind the Mental Monday. If I did, it was a long time. It was maybe in one of the beginning episodes. But there was a time where my goal, because I had started getting sort of frustrated at work. I started feeling like it was not fulfilling for me anymore. And I wanted to change careers, and I wanted to get become a licensed mental health professional. I got into a program at my workplace, and I I thought that because I'm employed there, that they would cover. I thought I saw somewhere. I thought I read somewhere that they would cover 100% of the tuition, right? Well, no, they would cover 60% of the tuition, which would have left me like with a $60,000 debt that I would have to pay out of pocket, which I was not going to do because the deal was, um, what my prayer was. Let me not say what the deal was, but my prayer was, Lord, I want to move into the mental health realm, but I do not want to take on any more student loan debt. Because I had some student loan debt already of my own. I also incurred some with my children, all three of them. And I just was not going to go into student loan debt. And in particular, I got into the program, um, but it would have been yet a third master's degree. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Lord, you said, and I remember emphatically when that happened, really being angry with God because I had this whole plan, which I thought I heard the Lord saying, it's going to be free. I kept hearing free. It's going to be free. And so I'm like, yeah, because I've gotten all this, I've paid for all this education that I have already. I'm not going to pay for, not as certainly not another master's degree. I might, if it were a doctorate, which I'm not interested in, I might have thought about it, right? But no, not for a third master's degree. And so I just was really angry with God. I was, and I'm going to be really transparent that I was, praising the Lord in my church, and I was doing all the, I was leading Bible study and doing all the things that I'm called to do in ministry, and all the while I was hot with God. I was really upset because I was like, God, you told me that this is what you wanted me to do. But now as I look back over that time, this is where I had gone on a retreat, and I've told this story before, certainly. This is where I very clearly heard the voice of the Lord tell me, I know the plans I have for you. The fact that you don't know them are of no consequence. I've got you. And so, because I heard it so clearly, it was like, oh, wait a minute. It's not that God was saying no, it was that he was saying wait. But the WEIGHT of the WAIT, the weight of the wait, was something that I had put on myself because I had all of these plans. It was, oh, in the next 5 years, I'm gonna be able to retire from my position where I am, and I will be able to change careers. I had a whole plan. I had somebody who I'm very close with who was already has her own therapy business, and I was going to I had it all planned. She was going to be my mentor through the process because you had to have a mentor. You had to do like so many counseling hours, to get your license and all of that. I was ready. It was my plan. I was ready. And when it didn't happen that way, it was like it was really I really sunk into a real deep depression. I sunk because it was like, but God, you said this is what you were going to do, right? So fast forward a little bit. There's a person at my job. He is the He actually is the chaplain, the university chaplain, right, where I work. So and he was also one of my instructors when I was in seminary. And he's somebody that, and he's also from Baltimore like me. So I always called him like my little big brother because he always is so insightful. So I scheduled an appointment to just go talk to him. And this is before like I started going to therapy, which was much later. But I was talking to him about it, and he said, well, maybe God wasn't saying that you were going to be a licensed mental health practitioner, but with your public health background and with your ministerial, your seminary experience, your experience in chaplaincy, like you are without the training, you already do that. He's like, do you realize that? And I was like, oh, but that's not the same thing because people aren't going to look, you know, eh, if I don't have some kind of an additional title behind my name, people aren't going to take me seriously, you know. Um, but then fast forward from there, I mean, several years later, um, it was like this, I was given this vision of Mind the Mental Monday. And I ended up um getting licensed and well, not licensed, but getting certified as a life coach, which you do a lot of the similar things. Now, as a life coach, if I have a client who clearly needs a licensed mental health therapist, of course, I'm going to refer them there. I'm not going to try to do the thing that I'm not trained to do, but I'm already sort of trained in the area of, being able to mentor and help people kind of ride shotgun with them and sort of help them figure out what their path is. Um, and and so in essence, it wasn't so much the weight that I was putting on myself was that the plan was for me to do it in this particular way, which was the way that I foresaw it. It was the way that I thought it was going to go. And when it didn't go that way, now I'm all upset with God. I'm all kind of mad at him because God, you said, and God is like, you heard something different than what I said. Because in fact, I didn't say anything. I said the plans that I had for you. I know the plans I have for you. You don't have to know them yet. And what it taught me was that sometimes we want plans to work out in our timing, but God knows when we're not ready. And God knew that in that timing, I really wasn't ready for what I thought I was going to be ready for. Um, and then this is before the pandemic. So we had no idea that there was going to be such a big need for life coaches and therapists in such a time as this. And so, in such a time as this, I'm still able to impart to others and hopefully encourage others to take care of their mental health. And I'm able to provide some kind of not just encouragement, but practical steps that people can take in different circumstances and different situations that they encounter in their lives. And so, the weight of the weight has been on me so hard. It's been pressed on me so hard over this last week. So I want to talk tonight really about surviving the weight of the weight because it is very easy that when we are in a holding pattern, when that job doesn't come through that we thought should have come through, when we don't get that relationship that we've been praying for years and that doesn't come through. Um, name something. What is something that you've been in a holding pattern waiting for? When that upward mobility in the career doesn't happen in the way that you think it should, it just weighs on you because it's just like you get to a place sometimes where it's just like I don't want to be here. Like I feel stuck and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm in a funk. Um, I just I don't know what to do, right? And so the weight just starts to really press in on you. And for me, it took honestly, like I was literally angry with God for a few years, for maybe 2 to 3 years. It took 2 to 3 years for me to really surrender it to Him, surrender to God how I was feeling, to really let it go and trust Him in the process. And when you're in that weight, that WAIT, it's not a weight of just sort of sitting around doing nothing. In that period of time, I really did stretch myself. I started a business. I started a nonprofit. I started to do the things to sort of educate myself, and keep up on sort of mental health trends and things of that nature. I started, I kept pressing in the weight, and I kept going. It felt like I wasn't really getting anywhere. But when you take, as I've said before, when you take just little tiny steps forward, it's still movement. And so it might take you a much longer time to reach the place that you're trying to reach. But what does that matter as long as you get there, right? Like as long as you get where you're trying to go, what does it matter whether you take giant leaps or small steps? Because the truth of the matter is if you're running at a fast pace or if you're taking giant leaps, at some point you're gonna get out of breath. At some point you're gonna get tired and weary. But when you take smaller, consistent steps towards your goal, I'm not going to say you're not going to get tired, you're not going to get weary along the way, but it's not the same as sort of steamboating, like powering through, trying to get there so fast that you end up just falling out before you get to where you're trying to go. Does that make sense? Does it make sense what I'm saying? I hope that I always ask that question. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Um, hey, Charmaine. Um, thank you. Thank you for for that comment. I appreciate that. I'm thankful for you. Good to have you here. So one of the things I want to talk about tonight is in surviving the wait. I want us to really take some time to walk through the survival part of it. Because if you're in a waiting pattern, if you feel like you're in a holding pattern, it is way too um what is the word I'm looking for? Your desire sometimes starts to wane, and then you get to a place where you just say forget it. You just throw in the towel and give up. And you give up short of reaching the height that you're supposed to reach, that you were purposed to reach, that you were put here to reach. And so the weight of the weight, it feels like emotional heaviness, right? It feels like spiritual fatigue. I was going through all of that. I'm telling you, the emotional heaviness of it, the spiritual fatigue, um, feeling like all my colleagues and people that maybe I went to college with, are so much more advanced than I am. Why am I not, where I need to be, and all of those things. I went through feeling like time is slipping away. As it was, I was talking about changing my career in my 50s, my early 50s. So it's like you start feeling like by the time you hit 50, now I'm about to be 57. I'm closer to 60 at this point. And so you start to feel like time is slipping away, and you might feel the pressure of needing to make something happen. Has anybody ever felt like that? Like, if I'm gonna make it happen, I gotta make it happen now. But as long as you have breath in your body, as long as you are still able to make some moves, it is not too late. So when sometimes when you're in a holding pattern, when you're in a waiting season, you some of the symptoms of it, might feel like you're like overthinking, or you're second guessing yourself. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. That's what I did for sure. I was like, well, maybe I didn't hear what I thought I heard God say. Maybe I might have just drummed it up in my head. And it was not that I just drummed it up in my head. It was that it was that what he was leading me toward was different than how I imagined it. But the promise was the same. It was, the promise was still the same. That didn't change. That never, he never wavered from the promise, right? He kept the promise and kept me moving forward in it, even when I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Um, so, constantly checking and comparing yourself, feeling overwhelmed by uncertainty, about the future, becoming spiritually or emotionally numb. I'm telling you, that is where I was. I was spiritually numb. I was spiritually numb all the while in the church, waving my hand and praising the Lord. My praise was sincere, but the feeling behind it was not. I was still just like I did. I was in a spiritually numb kind of place. And so it doesn't people who are in ministry, at that point I had been a minister for at least what, 13, 14 years at that point. I'm in my 23rd year of ministry right now. And so we go through those kinds of things in our humanity, where we can just become numb. But that being numb and just not being able to feel is not the place where we want to be, because when you're numb, it's hard to move. Like if your feet are numb, it's hard to move, right? It's hard to walk if your feet are numb. If your body is stiff and numb, it's hard to do anything. It's hard to do any kind of movement. And so we don't want to get to a place where we feel numb, but when we get to that place, we definitely have to be prayerful about how do I get out of this mindset. And one of the reasons that being in a waiting season is so uncomfortable is because you feel like you have no control over it. And we all are controlled. Everybody is a closet control freak. We all want to have control over what we do, right? We all want to have control over how things turn out in our lives. We, as humans beings, we want to be in control. I don't care how, yeah. Even the most submissive person internally wants to be the one to make the decision, wants to be in control. It is just who we are. And so, um, it can be uncomfortable for that reason. It can also feel like God is silent. Again, It was like, well, Lord, you said that I was going to get a free ride and blah, blah, blah. And now you ain't saying nothing. Where are you, Lord? What, where you at? My mom would say behind that preposition. You remember? Because you're not supposed to say at um in the English language. The English teachers out there know what I'm talking about. But in our when when we start getting real with God, it's like, God, where you at? What's going on? You said this, and you know, you said I could trust you. Where are you? I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing nothing. It's crickets. And sometimes the weight of the weight is feeling like you're alone in the weight. Like nobody else knows what I'm going through right now. Nobody else can feel. There's nobody else out here. God is talking about everybody else. They keep talking about how God can talk to everybody on this earth at the same time. Well, he must be talking to everybody but me, right? I'm just being very, very real tonight. Um, because I know that, there might be some who have never, who just feel like, oh, I'm just blessed and highly favored all the time. But there are times where in reality, we don't always feel blessed and highly favored. And when we're in a holding pattern, when we're in a wait, when we're in a season of waiting, sometimes it can feel like, there's like God is not listening, that he's not present, that he's not hearing us. When the fact of the matter is really usually the reverse, that we're not hearing him. We haven't we haven't opened our hearts and put ourselves in a space and a place where we can hear from him. Um, and so, a lot of times when we're in that waiting season, it can get to be really hard. But when you start to understand that you're not in it alone, when you start to understand that there are others, and that's why I want you to share in the comments. Please share a time where you have felt like this, because I want others to understand that this is not um, unusual, right? It's not unusual to sometimes get into that place and that space, even as a person who is spiritually mature. You can get to a place where you just feel alone. You feel like God has abandoned you. You feel like your friends and your family have abandoned you. You feel, like, we just don't know what to do. And sometimes it is a process to get to a place of surrender. Our young adult Bible study class on which meets on Thursday nights, we are talking about, that's our topic over the next couple of weeks, is surrender, and just talking about the need to surrender to God and how sometimes that's really hard, but how it's necessary. It's necessary because God can see what we can't see. God knows what we don't know. Our thoughts are not like God's thoughts. And so we have to get to a place where we're willing to surrender all of those toxic thoughts that play in our mind time and time again, so that we can be on a path to not only healing, but on a path to being committed to doing what we are purposed to do. And so waiting, if we get to an understanding of what waiting is, or what waiting can be a time of preparation. A lot of times we look at waiting, like we just get tired of waiting. Have you ever like just had to, you and a friend, for example, or a family member, you make plans, to go somewhere or do something, and they late. or you're the late one. And, you're the one that's got to wait on somebody else. I can't stand having to wait on somebody else. I cannot stand it. If I didn't have like transportation, like I having to wait and be on somebody else's time, wait for somebody else to be able to take me here and there, like I would be giving all my money to Uber and Lyft. Because rather than having to wait on somebody, and even with that, you gotta wait for them to get to you, right? No matter how you look at it, even when you take yourself somewhere, you gotta wait. There's waiting involved in almost everything that we do in life, but there are certain times that the wait seems way longer. And nowadays, if it's longer than 30 seconds, it's like, come on now, it's too long, right? But waiting can be a time of preparation. God is preparing you. What the song He's Preparing Me by Daryl Coley, one of my favorite gospel artists. He's preparing me for something I cannot handle right now, right? He's making me ready, right? And so sometimes, we're being shaped and formed into the person that we need to be in order to handle what we're waiting for, the relationship we're waiting for, the position that we're waiting for, whatever the case might be, whatever it is that we're waiting for, we are being shaped and purposed and crafted to be excellent when we get there. Um, Waiting can also be protection because some of the things that we think we're ready for, God knows we're not. God knows that if He gave us the thing that we've been waiting on right now, we would mess it up because we're not ready. We don't have the discipline. We don't have the consistency. We don't want to, go educate ourselves more. We don't want to read all that we need to read. We don't want to plan the way that we need to plan. We don't want to, take accountability over the steps that we need to take to get there. We're not ready. Waiting can also be a time of revelation, a time of clarity. Because sometimes we want to jump and leap and do stuff, and we haven't thought it through. We see the big picture at the end, but we haven't quite crafted, well, but okay, but how are we going to get there? What's the path? God is the one that knows the right path, because we might end up taking a path that ends up at a cliff. Yeah, we think we saying road, and we get to the road edge of the road, and it's a cliff that we about ready to fall off of. Then we got to turn. Now we got to turn around, and all of the advances we thought we made were advances in the wrong direction. We supposed to be going that way, and we supposed to be going that way. Now we got to turn around, go all the way back. Have you ever been on the highway and like miss your exit, and the next exit is like 4 or 5 miles down the road? You got to drive 5 miles to get to the next exit to turn back around and then drive another 5 miles back to get to where you were supposed to go in the first place. That can be very frustrating. And so when we take the time to wait, when we're not flying down the road, down the 55-mile-an-hour road at 80 miles an hour, I don't do that. Um, you can easily miss your exit when you're flying down the road too fast, right? So waiting can be revelation. And sometimes that revelation happens slowly. I didn't get the revelation for why what I thought was supposed to happen didn't happen for years. And so I could really, I mean, I could really um empathize with Sarah and Abraham waiting for 14 plus years. That's a long time. It's a long time, but God's timing, I'm convinced, is always the best timing. Always. Always the best because there's always pieces that we miss, pieces that we can't see. So let's talk now about some strategies to survive the weight of the wait. Because again, we might decide that the weight is too much, the WEIGHT is too much, and the WAIT is too long. And I'm jumping off this train right now and I'm out. And I'm just done with it. I just don't even I just give up. I just give up. But I want to encourage you all tonight that if any of you is in that waiting pattern, I want you to press. I want you to press. I want you to keep going. I want you because this is life, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It takes strides. A sprint is when you running as fast as you can, right? To beat the other people, but there's a place where you might have to, a marathon is more of a, you just taking it in stride. You get into your little postmarks and you drinking your water and you just taking it in stride because the goal is just to get to the end, right? For some people, they might want to time it, but for a lot of people, they just want to prove to themselves that they can reach the goal, that they can get to the end of the marathon. And so the first strategy is to reframe the weight. So rather than looking at it as, oh, I'm tired of waiting, oh, I'm just stuck, think of it as being stationed. If you're stationed, you're just, you're in place, ready when the baton gets to you. You're not stuck. You're able to keep moving, um, but maybe you're not moving as rapidly as you want to. But instead of viewing it as nothing is happening, understand that something is always happening. Something is always happening beneath the surface. Something is always happening that we can't see, right? And so the weight is working for me. Affirm yourself. Okay, this is a weight, and be truthful. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. But I know that in the end, the wait is going to be good for me. Something good is going to come out of this waiting season. I just need to have the patience to endure this season of wait and recognize that it's just a season. And each season has to change. Seasons come to an end and new seasons begin, and new foliage comes about, and new fruit is produced, right? When seasons change, things happen, things move. And so changing our mindset about the weight is the first thing that we have to do, is the first strategy. And then we have to release the illusion of control because the truth of the matter is there's very little that we actually really have control over. And we can control the things that we can control, but the things that we know we can't, ain't no sense in trying to control the things that we know we can't control. Control you, control your thoughts, control your actions, right? Control you. Identify what you can control. You can control the preparation that you put into the thing that you're trying to get to. You can control your attitude about where you are in the process. You can control your stewardship over the process of getting to the plan that is laid out for you. Those are the things that you can control. What you can't control is the timing. What you can't control is other people's decisions. Sometimes whatever your plan is might involve other people. You can't change other people. You can't change how fast they move. You can't change how they think and what they think. You can't change, what might come out of their mouth, whether it's discouragement or whatever the case might be. You can't control nobody else. You can only control your response to what others might do, but you can't control them and you can't control what they do, right? And there are certain circumstances over which we have no control. We can't control when we lose a loved one. We can't control when a job suddenly runs out of funding and shuts down and now you're out of a job all of a sudden. Like those are things that are just you're just not in control of those things. But what you are in control of is how consistent you are putting in your resumes and putting in job applications and going out and networking and meeting people and those kinds of things. You are in control of those kinds of things. And then build rhythms of renewal. The weight of the weight can be such that if you allow it, it will crush you. But if you build in and are, what's my word? What's my word? Y'all know my word. Intentional about doing certain practices that will build you up. Doing your daily gratitude, journaling, writing what you're grateful for, thinking about what you have versus what you don't have, thinking about, um, you know, how grateful you are just to be here, right? Just to have been chosen to populate this earth. We talked about it, like a one in several hundred trillion chance that those of us that are here would come to this earth as us. We are meant to be here, right? Doing breath work, breathing. Take time to breathe because sometimes when the weight of the weight can be such that we start to breathe in a way that's shallow, and shallow breathing really heightens anxiety. And so that's why for people with anxiety, you're taught to, take deep belly breaths, like fill up the entirety of your lungs. Not like that. That's a shallow. But when you and let it out slowly and do that a few times, it releases endorphins and it starts to help to change your perceptions and your mindset about certain things. Meditate on scripture, you know? Um, and one of the scriptures is they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings as eagles. They shall run and not get weary. They shall walk and not faint. Don't faint in your waiting season because in your waiting season, you're going to get to a place where you are going to be able to mount up and flap your wings and soar high above where you could imagine to that you would be able to, right? Because God can do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think. So meditate on your scriptures. Um I always suggest getting therapy or coaching. It's nothing wrong with going to a therapist to work through some of the challenges you might be facing. It's nothing wrong with seeking out a life coach to help you um, through some of the challenges that you might feel like you're having to get from step A to step B, from step B to step C, and on, right? Until you reach your destination. And then have creative outlets. Get with your tribe. Who is your tribe? Who are your people? that you know are going to be who are going to go hard for you, right? Regardless, they're going to be there for you. Make time with your friends. Make plans to go out and have dinner, have lunch, do something fun, go roller skating, go bowling, you know, just do something, have some kind of creative outlet that allows you to just kind of let your hair down and just not even be thinking about all the serious stuff that you have to do to get to where you're trying to go, but just have some fun sometimes. Let yourself have some fun. Laugh. Let yourself laugh, right? Let yourself experience joy in the midst of the storm. It's raining outside. Go out and just, not when it's thundering and lightning, but if it's just raining, go out in the rain. Just singing in the rain. Just dance through the rain. Go stop in some puddles. Just do something crazy. One day I did a video where I went down, I was on my walk out in the community where I live, and I went over to the park and got on some swings. Now I hadn't been on a swing in forever. One time I went down there with my grandbabies and got on the sliding board. I kind of did get a little bit stuck on the sliding board because my the sliding board the slime board is made for little kids. It's not made for grandmas. But the things you do for your grandchildren or your children or whoever you care about, the things that you do. I got down the slime board, but it was it was a little rough. Let's just say that. All right. Stay engaged. Even when you can't, like when you feel like you're not taking those giant leaps forward, stay engaged. Hone a skill. Take time to grow yourself in different categories or segments of your life. Do things that's going to help you to grow as a person. Do something new. Try something different. You let yourself experience something new and something that'll get you charged up so that you don't sort of wallow under the weight of the weight. Um, I've talked about this before, but create small goals. You don't have to, we keep using this elephant, um, a metaphor, but you don't have to eat the whole elephant at once. Like, eat just a little piece of it at a time. Um, but just allow yourself to keep moving. Whatever your movement is, just allow yourself to keep moving and to endure. Surround yourself with people that are going to keep encouraging you. You got this, sis. You got this, bruh. You can do this. You can, what you need, what you need help with. What kind of resources, do you need some resources I can help you with? Surround yourself with those kind of people that want to see you succeed and are willing to lend a helping hand. No matter how big or small the hand, they are willing to at least, if their hand is simply to encourage you along the way, let them do it. In a marathon, you've got people at different parts of the marathon that are just rooting people on. That's their whole job, is just to cheer them on. Give them a bottle of water. Yeah, surround yourself with people like that, but also you be that person. Be that for somebody else. You'd be surprised how charged you can get when you know that you are having some kind of a hand and encouraging somebody along and allowing them to know that they can reach their goal. There's something satisfying about that. You're not envious of them. You're not jealous and wishing something bad on them because they getting ahead of you. No, you're glad. You're happy for that person. And you're happy to be able to, lend a helping hand where you can. So all of those things are places that things that we can do when we're in that waiting period. Ground yourself spiritually. We talked about, utilizing scriptures and, going to your wherever you go for worship and worshiping with other people, the people in wherever you go, and even doing your own personal worship and your own sort of personal spiritual growth, because the spiritual part will help you. And guess what? Even in those times when you're mad at God, God is still there, and he's still saying, daughter, son, I know you mad at me. I how many times if you're a parent, there are going to be times where you have to tell your child no, or you have to tell your child wait. Now, it doesn't feel good because as parents, a lot of times we want to be able to just give our children, we want to be able to give to them. We want to be able to nurture them and give them. But sometimes giving is not nurturing them at all. It's enabling them. It's not teaching them to work, that they got to work for some things. It's not teaching them that they have to earn some things. It's not teaching them that they got to wait on some things. One of the things my dad used to always tell us, and it used to get on my nerves, was the deferred gratification. He used to say that all the time. Oh man, that used to get on my nerves. Deferred gratification, deferred gratification. And the way that he would help us to defer our gratification is if when we asked him for something, he asked us 80 million questions about why. Well, why do you need it? Why do you want it? What is it going to do for you? Well, I mean, he just had a whole bunch of questions. By the time you got to maybe the 10th question, it's like, you know what? Just forget it. It's all right. I don't want it. And then he would say, well, then that means you never needed it to begin with. Deferred gratification. You don't have to have it right now. Sometimes you're going to have to wait on some things. And when you wait on the thing, when you get it, you are so much more appreciative. You're so much more appreciative of things that you have to earn, things that you have to sort of wait for, work through when you get it, as opposed to things that are just handed to you. So, anchor yourself spiritually. Um, I said Isaiah 40 and 31, they that wait on the Lord, wait on the Lord, be of good courage. Psalm 27, uh, wait for it and you'll get it. It'll come. But you have to wait. So when you're in a waiting season, I'm going to close out this way. Pray without ceasing while you're in your waiting season and ask God, Lord, show me in your timing what you are forming me for. What are you forming me to do? And how do you want me to do it? And in due season, you will reap if you don't faint. The weight of the wait can be hard. It can be grueling. It can be time consuming. But when it is what you were purposed to do, the endurance is worth the wait. So I want to encourage you that you can survive the weight of the wait. You can survive it. The only way that you can survive it is if you keep moving through it. And the weight, the weight of the weight, what does weight help you to do? When you're bench pressing, it's giving you resistance. And resistance is building your muscle. And so when you have that weight, that weight of the weight, that is simply the resistance that is strengthening your spiritual muscle. And sometimes we know when one weight when it starts to get easy, if we start out with the 2 pound weight and that start getting easy, and we can move up to the 5 pound because the 2 pound is no longer giving us that resistance that's going to strengthen us. And so all through this life's journey, we're going to be adding on weight to enhance our resistance. But let that be what the WEIGHT is used for. Let the weight enhance your strength. Don't let it crush you. And guess what? When you're bench pressing that weight, you know how when people bench press, they always have a spotter that's there in case the weight gets too heavy. Well, God gives us spotters, right? And when the weight get too heavy, he's right there to lift it up off of us. Oh God, I hope you're encouraged tonight. I hope you hear that. God will pick the weight up off of you. That's why he says, cast all your cares on me, for I care for you. Because he can handle the weight. When it get too heavy, he kind of lifts it just enough that we won't get crushed up under it. But we will still be able to strengthen those spiritual muscles as a result of it. All right. So I hope that you were able to um get something out of this Mind the Mental Monday tonight, surviving the weight of the weight. You can do it. You can be a survivor, but don't give up. Keep going, keep pushing, keep enduring, and let the weight strengthen those spiritual muscles. You got this. You got this. All right. Well, until next week, God bless each and every one of you. Next Monday, uh, wait a minute, that's the week of Thanksgiving. I think I'm still gonna do Monumental Monday next Monday, I think. I think I will. Um, but be blessed, have a blessed week, and Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I will see you next Monday. God bless. Good night.